Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to High Top Sports. It is, in fact, the best save of the week. The show is brought to you by BetUS. Good to see you. We got Florida versus LSU. Will DJ Lagway play? Have some update, kind of, sort of. It's going to be kind of like what last week was for his injury. However, there are some big-time recruits visiting this weekend. Now, if you're on the side of hating Florida, then he finally decided to pay and it doesn't mean anything. If you're looking for some optimism, could it be because they signed the contract and now Florida is starting to make some momentum in the recruiting cycle? Who knows? Whatever side you're on, we'll figure that bad boy out. Introducing our co-host for the evening, Mr. David Swolderquist. Hey, what's going on, big guy?
Did you say good morning, by the way? I thought it was afternoon. I know daylight savings time kind of ruins everything and makes you think it's like morning time when it's not and then nighttime when it's not. But hey, man, it's Wednesday. It's high top, baby. Let's get it. Let's go.
Well, I know you negative Gators. I don't know what time you guys decide to wake up out of bed. You probably need to take some naps. So I always got to say good morning just in case what time you all wake up. But people watch in the morning sometimes, so you never know when they're watching. So you got to keep them ready to rock and roll here. So we'll see here how it rocks and roll. We got 100 people strong already. Be sure again to smash the like button and subscribe. Big time matchup for LSU. When I took a look at the data, it is a little bit interesting because it's probably on the data chart outside of Sanford, obviously, and arguably Mississippi State, of course, the worst team, not worst team, but not the most competitive team that we'll be going up against, or we have gone up against up until this point. And I think there is some optimism for this game headed into this week, especially what we saw how they looked against Alabama. Again, that they it started at A&M and carried over into Alabama, and Brian Kelly has seemed to lost a little bit of his lust over there at LSU. And we'll see. We got, again, some big-time recruits landing in here as well. The report was dropped moments before the show started on who's playing, who's not playing. Devin Moore is out once again. They didn't make it seem like it was serious when he got injured, but again, he was undressed after that Georgia game, so it looked pretty severe. And again, he's dealt with his injuries his entire career here at Florida. And look, I mean, as much as we love him, as great as he is, your best availability is your availability. So he hasn't been much available this entire season. Lagway, of course, is questionable, like we thought he would. Damian George, another questionable one. That was a big one we lost last week. Bryce Levitt did step up, though. And then, of course, Montreal Johnson is still questionable as well.
Yeah, it's a shame to have Montreal Johnson not available because I think the last time we saw him was a Tennessee game, and he was ripping him up. I mean, like he was averaging like 7 yards a carry, and then he just goes down to injury, and then you don't see him. The big thing, though, Lagway, obviously, we're hearing a lot of rumors about will Lagway play, will Lagway not. I've got a little bit of intel that I've talked to a few people around. They think Lagway is going to play. So it looks like we may see Lagway in the swamp Saturday. I'm not definite, not 100% on that. But I think the big storyline here is obviously DJ Lagway. Is he going to play? Is he going to step in? From what I've heard, looks like he will play. You kind of worry a little bit, though. The stage 2 hammy, does he re-injure that? Is it something that could re-aggravate? Hopefully that does not happen in this game. You go back to Anthony Richardson when he kind of came back and then he had to get his surgery, during bowl season. But, obviously you don't want that to happen. Hopefully Lagway can come out there if he does play and come out of there injury-free, be able to heal up and get us ready for Ole Miss and Florida State towards the end of the season.
I was talking with a buddy of mine. He's close to the program, and he had somebody who was at practice. I think it was on Monday, and he said that Lagway was taking more 1 reps versus the week prior. Aiden was taking more of the 1 reps. So there's obviously a transition in this week and in the progress that he's made. Again, I think it'll be a game time decision, and I think there's a lot of effort to get him to play. Given something happens, obviously from now until then, there could be a tweak or whatnot. But look, I think he felt pretty confident last week. I think last week, if he really, really wanted to, he probably could have. Would have been the best decision given re-injuring? No. And I think that's why they probably ultimately said no. And I think with the amount of recruits, which we're going to get into, and just it seems like there's a resurgence here that he is playing. Now, we will talk about the recruiting weekend because it is interesting. Again, people have their thoughts and perspective on it because it seems like there was recruiting kind of went MIA, went to a little bit of a dark silence. Like there wasn't much information coming out at all about what was happening there. And then all of a sudden there's just an influx of visits this weekend. And we kind of heard some murmurings about this $26 million, the buyout money being utilized now. Okay, look, now that this money, we're not going to have to use it here. Let's go ahead and we're bought back in. There's been an agreement. So let's go ahead and fund this, whether it's to this or that. And look, I think also, too, last year we saw a lot of schools do this. Auburn did it to us, and they kind of came in late and stole some things. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's continue with the injury report. But look, DJ Lagway, I think, is going to be a huge asset into whether this game and how we match up against LSU. We'll go over the stats a little bit later on. Again, they're a little biased because it depends on if DJ plays. This offense, passing offense, and the overall offense plays a huge factor whether or not DJ plays. If he doesn't play, you can basically put an NA there because we've seen what it looks like without DJ. It's a colossus drop off when he's not playing. So
it's bad when he's not playing. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's not fun.
Shout out to Aiden Warner though, man, being thrown in the fire there against Georgia, and then having to play the #1 defense the next week. I mean, come on, man. Like that kid's getting thrown right deep into the fire, just being the third string quarterback, and I got to give him a shout out because that is something that that's like one of us probably going out there trying to play quarterback, but at the same time, he's got a little bit more skill than us, but obviously you're literally playing the #1 defense the next week right after you have to step in for Georgia.
Yeah, it's not a fun place to be in. I don't wish to be in Aiden Warner's shoes at all. But look, DJ Lagway obviously is going to be our Lord and Savior come next week or come this Saturday if he's able to play. But let's talk about this list here. It's pretty juicy. 2 5-star visits. It looks like to be there. Nakeem Ord, what's his name? Naeem
Offord. Orford or Offord, however you say his name. He's Ohio State commit.
5-star cornerback and 5-star Jamie French, wide receiver. And then, of course, 5-star safety.
DJ
Pickett. He's on an unofficial visit. The other 2 are on official visits. Jamie French is an interesting one. Keep that name in mind. It goes to the same school at Mandarin as Tramel Jones. And obviously, there's been some noise about Tramel Jones possibly on a flip alert. I think we got they're decommitting from FSU. They obviously have some ruffles going on. They fired their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. There's been some ruffles with their offensive lineman and Solomon Thomas. A lot of movement happening there. And again, Jamie French getting the ball passed to him from Tramel Jones. You could always feel like, could there be a 1-2 punch? Now, I've learned my lesson on not buying into that possibility of getting the combo package. But again, DJ Lagway obviously is a huge pull as well for any big-time wide receiver. We've got a few wide receivers that are shopping around, so this would be a nice pickup if we're able to make some moves this next weekend. Miami is also in the mix for Jamie French, which we'll get into a little bit later on. But yeah, Naeem Offord kind of out of nowhere. I haven't heard this name, to be quite honest, at all. And so could we see Florida take a different approach to this recruiting class too? That's what I wanted to talk about, and I've kind of said this, is say, look, just go get 10 to 15 5- and 4-star guys. Try to get me as much LJ McCrae's and DJ Lagway-esque players that can kind of make an impact day one, and just go be dumb aggressive in the portal. You're not in the place, in my opinion, to stock up talent. You've lost that ability, right? You can't go get a 26 commits and have 20 of those be 3-stars, and that's just not gonna. There's no need for it, right? Because your future is definitely getting a little more glim as it moves on. Like, that's not being negative. That's just a matter of a fact. So be very precise with your decisions. If you can just go take that lump sum of money and just go give it to 10 really good guys in this next class and then go get it. I understand future that could make a bump, but you can make up for that later on. The portal allows for you to be aggressive. It allows for you to take different approaches than what we would normally see. So with these big time names, I mean, this has got to be probably one of the bigger weekends, I would say, like this much higher quality talent. I feel like I said this before. We've had weekends and non-football weekends like this, but at a game, I feel like this is probably one of the bigger splashes that they're going after. Now, some can say it's LSU, Florida, and that's where you can, the young other kid, I can't think of his name, I'm drawing a blank here, the safety that's committed to LSU currently. What's his name? On the unofficial visit.
Are you talking about DJ Pickett?
DJ Pickett. Keep dropping his name. Obviously, he's committed to LSU, so has he just taken an opportunity to come to get a ticket to the game? Could be, but we know Florida has always been in the mix. And to be fair, LSU's defense hasn't looked good, and I think Will Harris has done a great job with his cornerback room and making it play to a higher caliber. Could that be speaking some volumes? Possibly.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting looking at this visitor list because, I mean, you go back, you look at past games, not many kids visiting. I think the announcement of, the Napier announcement from Scott Strickland probably, resonated a little bit with kids saying, okay, well, he's going to stay another year. Maybe I should check out Florida. that probably is one of the factors. I think the other factor is DJ Lagway being the quarterback of the future. So now these kids know that DJ Lagway will at least be there for next year. So a lot of these offensive guys are probably a little bit more interested. You got to think too. This is Florida's really big last home game. I know they got Ole Miss, but it's a noon game. You don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not big on noon games, but probably, this will be a little bit bigger of a game because it is Florida LSU too. And you talk about like, you don't want to see a lot of 3 stars in the class or whatever. And I think that, with this new announcement of, okay, well, we have all this buyout money and we're going to use it in the portal. I think you got to be really, really careful down the stretch too, because you don't want a 5-star guy or a high 4-star guy that would say, hey, I want to commit from this class. You don't want to tell them no. Obviously there's money and NIL involved into those things and talks like that, but you also want to be very, very careful to save open spots for transfer portal players because of some of the offensive linemen you're going to lose, maybe some D linemen, wide receivers, that type of stuff too. So you got to kind of really be careful here down the stretch. Obviously, the transfer portal window doesn't happen until, a little bit into December, and then it lasts 30. It's a 30-day. I think now they shortened it from 45 to 30 days. So you just got to be really careful, man, down the stretch. I mean, these next 2 months are going to be very vital for Florida, especially when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to transfer portal. So, it could shape up to be an interesting month. I mean, I know that a lot of Florida Gator fans, including me, you've seen my tweets. I'm not really happy with what happened, but of course, I've got to accept it, right? We're sitting here. We have to accept it. Billy Napier's coming back. So let's see what we can do between November and December. And maybe some people aren't feeling as bad with the decision by the end of December.
Yeah, I think we'll have you're going to have to, right? At the end of December, I mean, we could go into January kind of how we were this year with like, hey, there's some pieces that were moved. We made some changes on the coaching side, and it's like, okay, we have some reason to be optimistic. I think you need to have that same feeling and then some. And Keeley even said we kind of had a pigeonhole ourselves into where, yeah, we got to kind of put our eggs into a basket. And like I said, look, the portal can be a curse and a blessing. You've got to utilize it to your advantage. And in a weird way, it allows for you to kind of get out of these holes that you've dug yourself into if you can navigate it properly. And that's where I think where we're at right now. Again, the recruiting class is not at the sexiest place it can be. It's not over. And look, here's we got to flip the other side, because when we were up great last year, all I kept hearing from people, doesn't matter till they sign the dotted line. Doesn't matter till they sign. Like, that was the comment section galore. Anytime we would hype up this class, like, none of it matters. And it all came true. Like, none of it mattered until they signed the dotted line. Now that roles are reversed and we don't have anybody, everyone's like, we suck. It's this. Well, the same message applies for this now, but into our advantage. Like, hey, none of these kids are out of the question until the dotted line is signed. So could we see a massive overhaul and land some big ones? Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I don't know. Look, I would be the finish of the class means nothing to me if we do land 15 just solid guys that are like, hey, going to come in and make an impact right around. Micah Bora, off defensive lineman, he's had some huge impact, right? He's played a ton this year. So Pup Howard was a big time get that we got out of the portal. He's been a huge impact as well. So there's guys out there where you can piece this properly. Again, your eggs are in a basket, but this is kind of the bet that we've made. We've got a lie in. I just saw too, by looking at the report, Pup Howard is out, which is not good. That defense just got a little bit thinner as we move on to it.
Yeah, it's one of those games, man, where, I mean, you look at it, I'm sure we're going to get into talking about LSU here in a second, but like, you look at it, and this will be 6 times in a row Florida's lost LSU if they lose. And I'm kind of tired of losing to LSU because the last time we beat them was the Joe Burrow pick 6. I guess you could call it the kick 6 because it was a repeated kick 6 from like the Brandon Spikes era. But I mean, I'm tired of them coming into the swamp and winning, man. We got to pull this one off.
I agree. We're gonna break it down a little bit more, but it's gotten a little out of hand. Gator Believer says $2 says, are the boosters going to support ball sack? And we were actually talking about this before the show. I think there are. I mean, they have been vocally boosters that are not pleased with the decision, but I've also myself I've heard that there's some that have supported, and I think there's just which ones are supporting it probably have the bigger bag or giving more, and I think that's kind of what it ended up being. So I do think that you're by the class that you're seeing or the visits that are happening, there has to be some support, right? I think there definitely probably was a hold in it of like, where are we going with this? There probably was a little bit of landlock of what decision was going to be made. And again, I think that's why that message was sent out to say, like, we're not doing anything. We can continue to move forward. And some people argue, like, why do we even have to do that? It is what it is. That's where we were. So I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, look, I agree. Like, I don't agree with the decision, but at the same time, we are stuck with the decision. So we might as well see what we can do outside of that.
Real Army Sniper $5 says, can we discuss Famo's retweet talking about how Napier pulled a Mullen recruiting wise, but no one said anything? I don't know what he retweeted to speak on it.
Yeah, I don't either. Dang it! What did you retweet, Steve?
Between you and Steve this past week has been absolute turmoil. But you guys are just stirring up. It's like I'm like the lonely child here. Mom and dad are just bickering. It's unbelievable.
I feel,
unbelievable.
You know what's funny? Everybody's talking about WrestleMania. I feel like we need a Royal Rumble because there's a lot of fans that probably just want to get in there and do something with that. Man.
I called Netflix. I said, hey, I got two guys that, if you need anybody else on the Mike Tyson and Jake Paul card, I got two. So let's see if we can get after it. I think the weight and size, you might have to beef up a little bit. Hey, real quick before we move on, who do you got? Crystal or Mike Tyson or Jake Paul this week?
Oh man, it's so weird because like I see these Jake Paul fights and I feel like they're set up for him to win, and it's like if it was a real fight between them, it's weird because Mike Tyson's he's a lot older, so you don't know how much force are behind those punches, but like you can tell he still definitely has the speed, so it's really hard to tell. But I would pick Tyson just based on the speed, but not so sure if the force is there behind those punches anymore, like it used to be in his 30s.
I don't know, man. I've talked to some people who I thought for sure would pick Tyson. They're like, I think Jake Paul gets him. I would be in awe if Jake Paul takes him down. I think at Jake Paul, I mean, he looks thicker. He's put on some weight. But Mike Tyson's a dog, bro. I mean, he's a psychopath. And that killer instinct doesn't just go away. Like, I know he's got a little lift and he gets a little talking like this a little bit. But when he gets into the ring, bro, like, it's just psychopath behavior. And I watched him a couple fights ago. He was on Jake Paul's card when he fought Nate Robinson. And I can't remember who he fought, but he absolutely, and there was two old dudes fighting each other. Like Tyson looked like he still got it. And I know it's a couple years removed from that, but the guy still got it, dude. There's just something about, it's like riding a bike for these dudes. Like there is just, when it comes into the ring, when you create those muscles and you build those things, it never really ever goes away. And it's gonna be really interesting to see. But I think Jake gets whopped. I'd be shocked if he takes him down.
They did a side-by-side comparison of Tyson back in like when he was younger and a side-by-side now of him like sparring, and he still moves just as quick. It's insane.
It's going to be fun. But yeah, look, so a big weekend. Let's go over. Do you have the list? You want to just kind of go over it really quickly? Just a few of the big names, or I mean, you sent it to me. Just some of the sexy ones that are going to be there. I know our quarterback for 2026 is going to be there, which is, I got to pull it up. Here we go. Waltez Clark, our commit's going to be there. Jamie French, 5-star wide receiver, which is a big one. Joseph Mabacho, who recently decommitted, who was like all in, and obviously he got a lot of love after he was kind of a nobody. Now he's a 4-star defensive lineman. He'll be there. Big opportunity. Daniel Pierre-Louis, he's an FSU commit. He's an offensive lineman. He'll be there. Defensive lineman Stephon Shivers, 3-star. He'll be there as well. A lot of our guys that are currently committed, which is good to see, will be there. Myron Charles, defensive lineman from Texas commit, will be there. Tarquez Quarter, the 3-star defensive lineman from Newberry, somebody that we've constantly been in touch with. And I think he's, maybe he comes around. We'll see. And then a lot of 2026 guys will be there as well. Again, I don't put too much weight into those just because those guys kind of get thrown invites. The 2025 one is the real important one here. And it is top heavy, which is good to see.
Yeah. Something we haven't seen in a long time. That's for sure.
Yeah. With as many as good games and big games that we had, I felt like, again, we kind of went a few weeks with some quietness. And again, I know Tennessee was on the road and Georgia was on the road, so that could have played a factor into it. Plus, there was a bye week. I felt like Utah or the Kentucky game didn't have much, and that was a big night game. It was electric. I feel like there was an opportunity for them to have some people. They probably did, just no big splashes that we even talked about on this show. But look, Jamie French is an interesting one. I always felt like there was an opportunity there, just given the fact that he is so close to Gainesville. He's in Jacksonville, Florida. I know we were targeting Tramel Jones. They have another 5-star wide receiver at Mandarin as well. I don't recall where he's committed to currently, but that offense is a high-power offense there at Mandarin. So this is an interesting one to watch. And I think, look, for him, if you're Jamie French, you go, if we're able to flip Tramel Jones and then Will Griffin's coming in, there seems to be a healthy future of quarterback play coming to Florida. And like that's got to speak volumes. But again, people argue, well, the offense hasn't really been nice to maybe the wide receivers as much, although we did send a first rounder to the NFL last year and Ricky Pearsall, who did have a touchdown this past weekend. So shout out Ricky P.
Yeah, that's it. He got shot and came back and still had a touchdown. He's got like 1/4 of the yards Keon Coleman does already. So go ahead, Florida State fans, chew on that one. But yeah, I mean, you talk about Jamie French. It's really interesting because, he's committed to Texas. Obviously, he's visiting for the game. You hear the news of Napier returning. Kids know Lagway is going to be there next year. Now you see a wide receiver that wants to visit the University of Florida. Not saying that's going to happen. There's rumors of the OC being Cade Bell on message boards and stuff like that. I've kind of heard the same thing. So are we now interested in Florida because now we know we have an OC calling plays and it's not going to be Billy Napier and you're going to have Lagway throwing the football? It is interesting. It is. I mean, he is committed to Texas. Obviously NIL does play a big factor. We heard about the, the slush money or whatever you want to call it. And, I don't know, man. It's weird. When I saw his name, I was like, he's gonna visit. I was just like, he's probably here for the free food and the game. But I mean, you never know in these recruitments. I mean, if Lagway goes in there and plays LSU and just lights it up, scores like 50, 40, or 50, I mean, who knows, man? Maybe the place gets electric and you see some kids saying, "Oh my God, maybe I need to look at Florida."
And look, people are talking about, hey, can Florida make a bowl game? Look, this game is the bowl game. Right, this is the game that gets you into the bowl. Because if you win this game, you got, FSU should be no problem. Again, all things considered with DJ Lagway. That Ole Miss game, I think they kind of showed some heart this past Saturday, which that game kind of feels a little more intimidating. Again, I think Florida right now, we are week to week on what team are we going to get come Saturday. We had a couple weeks where we looked really good and we felt promising. And then the Georgia game, we lost a lot of players. So, we're going to have a different identity come this Saturday because now Pup's out. We still don't know about DJ Lagway. Like, we're fighting through some injuries here. And I think they're grinding through it. So we'll see. But this game could really show what playoff implications, or bowl games could what it could look like. And look, I think I used to not really care about them, but I think playoff games would be, or a bowl game would be huge this year, just given the extra practice time and especially how young this team is. I think it provides so much more importance than I've ever cared as a fan. Like, I'm like, who cares about the bowl games? But now, if we're really talking about building blocks and trying to get to the future, I think that it does have some big momentum. And again, they are still fun to watch during the holiday season, just to at least see your team one more time. So I would love it. I usually, I'm not rooting let's make a bowl game. It's not moral victories, guys. Like, let's focus on the what's important here. And I think the extra practices would be important. So.
Yeah, and I think that Pop Howard being out does suck, but I think he recruited pretty well at linebacker. I mean,
Agreed.
Even if you had to throw freshmen out there, I mean, it's like Miles Graham, Aaron Childs. Are you going to complain about that? I wouldn't.
Agreed. I think that has been a room
Miles
that has
Graham,
stepped up.
Yeah, Miles Graham looks like the most ready to play college linebacker, just based on his size and everything else and the intangibles that he has. So it's like at least we'll get to see futuristically one of these linebackers, or if it's like a sophomore or something like that comes in too. So at least we got that.
Absolutely. Before we dive into this LSU versus Florida preview by the numbers, did Rocket Money find any subscriptions you forgot about, or any you paid for twice and didn't realize it? Rocket Money is a financial app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. I talk about this. What's so fantastic about this app is not just because it finds the subscriptions and helps you cancel those things out, which is fantastic because I know myself spends a lot of money on subscriptions because you forget about them, but it also helps you track your spending for the month. You can see where it's going, whether it's entertainment, whether it's food, whether your wife takes your card and goes buy too many coffees or candles, because candles are now buy one, get one for Christmas, right? I can see well, why is this going here? It shows you by the colors. Well, your little personal account in your pocket, which is fantastic. I think it's healthy to be educated on your finances. And also, once you plug everything in, if you own a house, if you have a car, it shows you your net worth. I think it's weird for us to, you think when you think net worth, you think like the millionaires and billionaires, like what's Billy's net worth once he gets his $26 million buyout. Anyways, so all these things, I think it's very informative to be on top of your finances, and Rocket Money allows for you to be more on top of those things and to help you save your money. So Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's features. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com rocketmoney.com/hightopsports. That's rocketmoney.com/hightopsports. Ladies and gents, fantastic stuff. So I mentioned at the top of the hour, top of the show here, I do these reports, this little graph, I put it together every single week, and I kind of see how Florida shuffles up and down each week, and then I also can see who we've played, and I've kind of have like this built-in unnecessary information in my head of these teams and where they rank. And like I said, honestly, this is the worst team on paper. Not the worst team. Again, Samford and Mississippi State, but I kind of put them in their own categories. The worst team on paper that will have played. Because when we played UCF, they had the number 1 offense or number 2 offense in the country, the number 1 rushing offense in the country. Their defense was pretty solid, I believe. Now, this will be the highest passing offense that we play. So there's something to that, right? Like this will be again, on paper, the worst team we've played. We're playing at home. DJ Lagway should be back. I feel good about this game. Again, last week, not so good. I feel much, much better about this game. Again, a lot is riding on whether or not DJ Lagway. I'm in the mindset that DJ will be playing, and even with the injuries that we are aware of, I feel very confident going into this game. I think LSU lacks a little bit of identity. I think they have some big major holes that they have not been able to figure out. They haven't been able to find. Brian Kelly, I believe, kind of hides behind this LSU logo and just this unreal talent that LSU constantly just naturally has. And I think that's kind of carried him his time at LSU.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you look at LSU and then the matchup between Florida. Now, if Lagway does come back, and I'm not sure if he's 100% because of those stage 2 hammies, but if they feel he's 100%, I don't know. We're just going to have to see and watch the game. But, Lagway being in there as a run threat, you already have Ball. You have Jacoby Jackson's been on a stinger lately, man. He's been running really good. He averages 5.8 yards per carry, and he's got about 3.5 yards after contact. I mean, I think he's been the better runner of the two. I know a lot of people will argue with me with Jaden Ball and all that too. I think it's a good 1-2 punch anyway, so it doesn't matter. And LSU hasn't really been good in rush defense this whole year. They've given up an average of almost 160 yards rushing a game, and the rushing offense, they haven't even been able to run the ball too. So I think with Lagway in this game, putting in that dual threat kind of scenario to where maybe it throws the defense off, you can get guys like Ball and Jacoby Jackson and some of those guys some run. I think that's really going to help out DJ Lagway in this game. Might help out this defense too, give him a little bit of a rest there on the bench. They did struggle a little bit last week. Granted, Texas is Texas, and that's why they're in the top 5. I think Florida I think they can score some points this game if Lagway stays healthy. And I think that's the biggest issue in this game right now. Can Lagway stay healthy? Can the offensive line keep guys off of him? Will he have to scramble a lot? And I kind of want to see Lagway throw some of the shorter passes a little bit better. I mean, I've noticed sometimes where he'll have a shot at somebody that's open. He'll kind of overthrow them. Sometimes they catch it, sometimes they don't. But I'd like to see him put a little bit more touch on those passes in the middle of some of those 10 to 15-yard passes, some of the other things. And maybe they make it easy on Lagway at the beginning. Maybe they give him some short plays. Maybe they give him some jet sweeps. We all know we love to run that jet sweep all the time. But maybe they just tell Lagway, hey, just like Anthony Richardson did a few years ago, let's do a flea flicker, take one over the top right at the beginning of the game.
I would love it. Look, the defense-wise, I mean, we rank 100th, and I think we dropped up back a few notches after our performance last week. We got torched. The cornerback room scares me a little bit, and we'll get into that when we talk about this passing offense. Their defense ranks 69th. And like I said, that's probably one of the the worst defenses we played. And I say worst defense lightly. we played some gauntlets, so I say that very lightly. Offensively, again, that's 73. It's skewed because if Warner plays, I'm going to put NA there. If DJ plays, I think you bump it up a few notches, right? So you kind of take that with a grain of salt. LSU's offense is 32nd, and this is where we'll get into, because when you break it down by their passing offense, that's where they get really scary. Rush offense hasn't been much, and honestly, that's where they've blundered the last few games because they don't have much of a rushing offense, which has put Nussmeier into a predicament. We'll get into rushing offense. We rank higher than them, and I think that is our strength. That is our identity, and that's kind of where they got beat past last week to Alabama. Jalen Miller rushed for 154 yards. We even ran the ball somewhat effectively against Texas. If we're able to run the ball, I think like we did last week, I think we have a really solid chance. It might be an ugly, low-scoring game, but if we can keep the LSU defense on the field as long as possible and kind of put Nussmeier and LSU into the situation they've been where they've got to score and score quickly, we can capitalize on those mistakes. I think that has to be the game plan going into this. Their passing offense, again, ranked 7th. And with the injuries we have in that secondary, that's where I am going to be concerned. We saw what Quinn Ewers was able to do last week, just torch us left and right with ease. They had a much more effective running game, so you've got to respect all of those things. But I still think, Nussmeier is a phenomenal quarterback. I like what he's able to do. He's going to be a great when he continues to move on. This is kind of his first true year. So we'll see. It will be interesting to see how he plays in the swamp. Rush defense, again, they one of the worst rush defense we've played, and we've had success rushing the ball. So those things are what I'm looking forward to. And then passing defense, we rank 90th, and again, that's where I'm concerned. They rank 64th. So it's gonna a lot comes down to DJ Lagway, and a lot comes down to how we can make these adjustments on defense again, because we are thin at that cornerback without Devin Moore, without Asa Turner, without Castano, without Jason Marshall, and Jordan Castell hasn't been what he was. So I do have those concerns. Those are and now Pup's gone as well. He's been a huge factor in that middle linebacker position. So we'll see. It's just going to be a day-to-day thing, to be honest with you, man.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of backup dudes playing this game. And as I said, I think that's where you can really hurt LSU offensively. Now, defensively, obviously, it's going to be a challenge with the injuries and everything else and the guys being out. But, as far as this offensive line, how they play pretty well in the run game, I'm not going to say that they played immaculate, obviously, because you look at rushing offense. But, you look at some of the teams we played, being able to run the ball effectively against Georgia, against some of these other tougher teams. So, maybe it becomes one of those games where it's like a shootout like it was last time, and maybe the score's like 40-40 at the end of the game. The last couple of games, I think Florida has played LSU, and it's been shootouts. Like, I don't think anybody has, put anybody under 30 points. So it'd be interesting. And look, and if Lagway can stay healthy and he can go into the swamp and play Kentucky's, I think there was a top 10 defense at the time. Yeah, maybe it was a little bit overrated, but it was still a top 10 defense. Puts up 48 on them. Obviously, interceptions and turnovers, I think that will also help Florida out as well. There was some in that game. Lots of short fields. So I think Florida matches up pretty well if Lagway stays healthy. Now, if he goes down, I would probably just call it a LSU victory. But hopefully that doesn't happen, and hopefully Lagway stays healthy.
Kentucky still ranks 33rd, which is still higher than LSU. Yeah. And with more season. Now, I think they were like 20th. So it wasn't like they dropped dramatically. We played Miami, who ranked 21st. We played Tennessee, who ranked 5th. We played Texas, who ranked 2nd. We played Georgia, who ranks 13th. That's what we've gone up against in defenses. Like I said, UCF was much higher at the beginning of the season. They have dropped dramatically, and we saw we were able to do against them. So, and then again, Sanford, I'm not putting too much into. Texas A&M, I'm not sure where they're at. I feel like they should be much higher. I must be overlooking them, or they've fallen as well.
Well, we went down to 28 points per game on our average, but I really hate to count that only because we've had to play with Aiden Warner and the average went down. But before he went down, we were scoring a little over 30 points per game. So is LSU. So they're at like 30.1. So I think offensively, the matchups are pretty evenly stacked. Of course, you got to factor in Mertz playing at the beginning of the year too before Lagway stepped in. So I don't know, man. I think it's going to be one of those games that, if Lagway stays healthy, it could be another shootout.
Yeah, look, with DJ playing, these teams are, LSU on defense hasn't looked very sexy. Florida has had moments of sexiness, and I think they've got some elite wide receivers. So it's not as lopsided as it may seem to be, just given how Florida is coming into this game and how LSU is coming into this game. I don't think it's as intimidating. Again, I don't think LSU's ranked anymore after that. Or no, they're ranked 23rd. So that obviously always plays a factor in people's head because they're ranked. So we'll see. Should be a good one. I'm excited about it. And I think, again, DJ Lagway play, it's crazy, but the quarterback play is very important play. Let's get into our pick'ems of the week. Last week, we were atrocious, Dave. I got 2 right, and you got 3 right. We got torched.
I was thinking that. I was like, man, I probably did so bad.
Oh, we were horrible. Look, we both picked Miami, and I said it's a win-win. I'll either win the bet or I'll win Miami losing. So that one, I'll take on the chin. I'm okay with that one. We were wrong about LSU. We were way wrong on LSU. We were way off on that one. I can't think of the other ones that we were off on, but yeah, we weren't even close. But let's see what we can get into this week. We got the Cox at Mizzou. I think it's playing at Cox. I got this one backwards. Cox are favored by 12.5.
Yeah, dude,
and I love it.
They're playing some good football. They're playing some good football right now.
I can't disagree. I think Mizzou has been scooting by. I don't think they got a pissing hell to make this work. And look, Vegas sees something. I think they know what's up.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm picking South Carolina because, I mean, their D-line's just been killing people all year. I wish I had their D-line right now, but and they've been playing pretty well on offense too. I mean, God, look at that A&M game that they had against them, 44-20. I mean, they've just been on a tear, and it's crazy to see South Carolina be like one of those teams that weren't really talked about at all season, and they're doing this. So yeah, I'm going with South Carolina.
For sure. We got the Ducks, Wisconsin. Wisconsin is getting 14 points. What do you like here, Dave?
I'm going with Oregon Ducks. I think that's a pretty easy one to pick, but hopefully I don't bite my words there. But yeah, I'm going Oregon.
Yeah, I think it should be 20. Maybe more closer to 17, 18. I think they're trying to hope this is a close one. Not that 14 is close by any stretch, but Wisconsin hasn't really given me any hope that they can keep up with what Oregon's going to be able to produce. And this Oregon team has been keeping their head down and getting their business done. Tennessee, Georgia. Nico, quarterback for Tennessee, questionable. This is the most polarizing discussion of the week. You've got people coming out saying he's concussed, he's not going to play. You've got other people saying, I think Shannon Terry was like, not true. Like, it's mayhem. And then today the report was released that he's questionable with a concussion. I think that plays a huge factor in how this game shakes up. Georgia, obviously on the ropes here from a playoff berth. They're favored by 10.5. I'm pretty sure the Dogs are now like 2-7 this year on covering the spread. I don't know who wins this game. I really don't know. I think Tennessee curb stomps them. I don't know. Georgia has not given me a reason to believe in them this year.
Yeah, you're going my way too, man. We're gonna have the same picks the whole way down.
Tough.
Yeah, I'm thinking Tennessee's D lines played pretty well this year. Dylan Sampson is a monster. He's rushed for like 1,100 yards already. And Beck, their offensive line is just struggling, and he's throwing all these interceptions, and it's just I saw them play Ole Miss last week, and Ole Miss is a great offensive team. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't think that their defensive line is great, but the defensive backfield a little bit, you're just like, whatever. I mean, Tennessee, I think even if Nico doesn't play, they can still beat him.
That's kind of my thing too. I think it might benefit them honestly because their identity is defense and running the ball, and maybe again I don't know who they have as a backup, but it will be interesting, guys. Florida's not 21.5 point underdogs. That's from last week. I forgot to change it. It's only 4. I saw someone say Vegas must hate that Lagway plays, and I was like, wait, what? That's not true. Utah at Boulder. Boulder is really starting to turn some heads, especially Vegas. They've been underdogs all year, and if you're betting with them all season long, you would have made some money because they have been again 4+ underdogs, 5+6. We've picked them on the show. I've been leaning Buffs. I haven't even blinked. This line. The only reason it scares me is because it's Kyle Whittingham on the other side of the ball. That's the only part that really kind of concerns me. But I still Buffs haven't lost by 14, or they've won by 14 on the road outside of the Nebraska game. And then they lost to Kansas State. But every other game they've played on the road, and this is at home, they've won by 14. They have really started to find their stride. I think 11's still not enough. I think they cover.
Yeah, I'm going Colorado too, man. Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter. I mean, that team's been humming. I mean, they struggled at the beginning of the year, but now they've been humming down the stretch, and I think they found a stride. And I think that Utah, obviously, if it was a Cam Rising playing a quarterback, you might think a little bit differently, but it's not. So I got to go with Colorado.
Utah is not the team we thought they would be, and they played BYU tough last week. That was kind of where I was a little hesitant, but this offense that Colorado provides is just something different. I think what people are starting to talk about too. The Colorado defense is something special. Harrison says Ugo will come in pissed off. I would love to believe that, but they haven't done that at all this season. We keep saying it, and it hasn't come true yet. Like eventually, it's kind of like again, the flip flop of this is we kept saying Lane can't win the big ones. Well, he finally turned that over this year. We keep saying Georgia's going to come in pissed off. They haven't given me a reason to believe that, and I'm not going to find a reason to believe it this week. Dude. We'll talk about it. I mean, pause. Let's talk about this for a quick second. That kid that was bouncing around, jumping around with his fans and the family and whatnot, and Kirby just absolutely obliterates him. The kid comes out, writes an apology letter. You've had 5 to 6 people with DUIs, punching baby mamas, doing all these things. Kirby, all he said was like, we're going to handle it. Not like he dismantled this kid through his interviews. And the fact that, I mean, whatever the kid felt that he needed to say something. when nobody else says something like that, that has to speak volumes.
Yeah.
That is crazy to me.
Like I know I talk a lot of crap about Georgia and all that other kind of stuff, but like this is just flatline all that stuff out right now. Like as a moral person, you're gonna sit there and tell a kid that he has to apologize for celebrating with one of his buddies after a game. I get it. He's in a Georgia uniform. It looks bad. So whatever. I get that part. But, you know, like you said, you've had all these guys getting all sorts of trouble from drunk driving to speeding. Somebody died. I mean, somebody hit their baby mama, like you said, all this other kind of stuff. And we hear nothing. This dude, all he cares about is winning football games. He does not care about anybody outside of that field. I don't care what he says. And they talk about culture, all that kind of stuff. I have not seen one bit of culture out of Kirby Smart at all.
Big question mark on that one. And look, I think I'm not a fan of the kids celebrating either. You just lost. You should be a little more remorseful, I would think, too. But it's at the grand scheme of things, it wasn't. I mean, like, it's like, yeah, whatever. He celebrated. Like, I don't know. It was done. We'll never know the whole story, so it's hard to talk about these things. But how it looked on the outside in, I think it was pretty ugly, in my opinion. We've got Nebraska at USC. USC's favored by 9. What do you got here, Dave?
Shoot, man, that one's tough. God, I'm going to go with Nebraska. I'm going to pick the Huskers.
Damn it, Dave. Me too, man. I think USC's a joke, and I can't believe they're favored by 9. And I think Nebraska's been a little bit of a skid here, but I still like this Nebraska team to get it done. Clemson, Pitt. Pitt has just really disappointed me. They let me down last week. They were in the ACC championship. All they had to do was all they had to do was win out, and they're in, and they kicked Miami out. Like, how incredible is that? Because it was them and SMU, and they lose to Virginia. Like, come on, Pitt. And now they're underdogs against Clemson. I feel like they just lost their swagger out of nowhere. I don't know. They were cruising. They were getting it done. Clemson is on their backs against the ropes. They had a tough loss against Louisville. I like Clemson here. Plus 10. I still like Clemson. I could be wrong with this one. This is a tough week here.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pick Pitt just so we're separated in at least one of them because we're just going to pick the whole same team. So I'll make it interesting. I'll go ahead and just throw it out there. I'll pick Pitt.
This is a rough week for us. I'm taking Florida here. It's plus 4. You know me. I'm not going to ever get that. Not pick that.
Man, LSU's had her number. It is in the swamp. You have Lagway back, but does Lagway? I'm so worried about Lagway re-aggravating the hammy.
I'm putting you in that for LSU.
Just put me LSU. I hope Florida wins, though.
Boys and girls, there's our pick'ems for the week. Let's talk a quick few things around the league before we go. Be sure to smash the like button. We haven't hit on 100 likes yet, boys and girls. Show some love. Smash the like button. Did you see this? Thomas Castano, quarterback for Boston College, was benched, and then reports came out a few days ago that he stepped away from the team, and now, just moments before the show, he has entered into the transfer portal.
Wonder what happened there.
Again, we don't know the full story. I don't know what happened, but like, could there be more to this? Possibly. But how it looks, gets benched, throws a fit, I'm out. We have to take advantage. We have to take advantage of this and sacrifice this. Like, this kid, you can't reward this behavior, or it's going to continue to happen. Like, this is what I keep talking about, is where the coaches have to come together, and it's like, we cannot pick this kid up. And I don't want to ruin this kid's career. That's not what I'm getting at. But you can't be rewarded for quitting on your team in the middle of the season because you don't like what happened. Don't suck. Again, maybe there's something that I don't know. And so I might bite my tongue here, which I won't, because like, okay, we didn't know that. From the information we have gathered now, this looks horrible. And the other ones, like, again, I've said this from everyone, but this one looks just like even more worse. Like, some guys, like the first kid, UNLV, he wasn't getting paid enough. I thought that was disgusting too. This is just this right on that same category. It's like, you're unhappy with it. You get benched. Instead of grinding through it and working your way back, and maybe at the end of the year, like, hey, this isn't for me, that's fine. You just walk away. You're the quarterback. You're supposed to represent leadership. And again, I think you should make an example out of the UNLV kid too. Like, this is, I'm on the same boat. If you're not playing, maybe you can have, I'll give you a little bit of leeway. I'm not a fan of it. I can't stand that, seeing these kids in the middle of the season just say, I'm out. Unless you're not playing at all, I can't stand it.
Yeah, that's an interesting scenario, because like if you are entering the transfer portal and that is the exact scenario where you just got benched and you got mad and you left, you are leaving your team behind. That is something you don't do, especially, and not even as a leader, just as a player. You're going to leave your whole team behind just because you got mad, because you got benched, and it's instantly. If you get benched, try to learn, try to get back to that starting role. I mean, like that's something that like you should do. Now, if he said something really nasty and something happened in the locker room and the parents had to get involved,
Sure.
like something that was like really extremely bad, I can understand going into the portal, not wanting to be there. Get out of there. In that case of the scenario, though, like if something had happened that was majorly bad to where he had to enter the portal, you would see a lot of other players probably standing up and saying something and being like, hey, this isn't right, whatever. You don't really see that. So I don't know what really happened, but yeah, like you said, this transfer portal and everything else, it's like it's teaching kids to quit on their team. I'm not saying that is the scenario here, but it's teaching them to do that. And like, this is why they tried to keep this out of college sports to begin with. It's like, okay, cool. You grow as an adult, you go into the NFL, you got more of a level head in the NFL. Obviously, there's contracts involved, there's everything else that's involved in the NFL, and it's a little bit more structured, I would think, more than NIL. But I mean, as a kid, like you're not teaching them really that well in this society, but this society doesn't care anymore. All they want to do is pay for players and win games. So it's like, I don't know, man. It is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, it's just quitting on, again, like you said, maybe something happened, maybe somebody said something, and even still, I think there's a fine line of just whatever. But I don't know. It's I think you gotta start making examples of kids that are just quitting in the middle of the season because things aren't going their way. And some may argue, well, they got to protect their future, and look. I think how you carry yourself through adversity, that's on you. Like you're not protecting your future when you just throw a fit because it's not going your way. Like you got benched, you may not play on this team anymore. Stand on the sideline, respect the decision that was made, respect your coach's decision, even though you may not like it. This is you committed to this team. Follow through to the commitment, then make a decision at the end of it. Call me old-fashioned, call me whatever you want to do, but I just disagree with it. Well, boys and girls,
I was gonna say I'm more old-fashioned than you. I'm pretty old.
Yeah, that's true. But I drink old-fashioned, so I think that helps a little bit. Boys and girls, be sure to smash the like button. Good to see you as always. Be sure to turn the bell on. We got shows coming out this week. I might do a show with I'm gonna see what Holly's doing because there's a lot of conversation going on with logo bias, conference bias, and it's always been a conversation. But now, because there's more playoff spots, you're seeing the favoritism probably a little bit more, which is interesting. Got to talk about it. I think it'll be a good one, and I think it's good to get old Steve's perspective. He called in Saturday. You didn't see. I don't know if you saw that. He called in on the call-in show. We had a great 30-minute conversation. It was the good old times.
I was probably drunk. But yeah, we're gonna see a return of Chad Beaver.
I think it'll just be Steve. Chad Beaver was he's kind of he's special insight stuff. But I'll see what he's doing. We'll see if he's free. I think it'll be a good, healthy conversation to have. And
when's that going down?
If he's down, I'll do it with him tomorrow. So I got to reach out. I think it'll be a good combo to get his perspective.
Maybe I'll call in.
It's like, I'm not going to call in show. Boys and girls, good to see you as always. Happy Wednesday. Enjoy the best day of the week. Again, keep the bell turned on. Smash the like button. Subscribe. We love you here. Thank you for tuning in. Dave Schwolder, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all have a good Wednesday. Peace and love, baby.